And hello, everyone. We are live, and I am Dawn Y. Graber. I'm the founder of Dawn. I support leading women and help organizations build cultures where women stay. And I am happy to introduce to us this evening, and I'm all excited to learn from Dr. Mariah Prince Allen. Mariah, where are you hailing in from this evening?
I am hailing in from Durham, North Carolina.
All right. So, someone in the same time zone. Yay. I'm sure you are too with telehealth. We're always like crunching the numbers, trying to figure out what time it is with
Yes,
and
for
dollars.
sure.
Right? All right, we're both Eastern time. Well, welcome everyone who's jumping on, and any of you who may see this recording. We are all about both wanting workplaces to benefit from the gifts that women bring and also helping to educate and resource women and those of you in leadership decision making power to be able to hold on to her because you can't afford to lose her. But first off, we need to meet Dr. Mariah and learn a little bit more about her. And I was thinking of what we have in common, Dr. Mariah. And I thought, first of all, we have the nursing thing in
Yeah.
common, right? That was my bachelor's, a BSN. And yet here you are a doctor, a nurse practitioner. So do people call you, we call you doctor, but it's doctor in nursing. Is that ever confusing?
It is very confusing to patients. I usually have to tell them I am a nurse practitioner by practice, but that I do have a doctorate degree in nursing practice, which gives me my leadership and academic background and stuff. So it's usually always trying to let them know that I'm not a medical doctor, but I am a nurse practitioner with a doctorate degree.
I love it. We're going to call you Dr. Mariah. You've earned it, and we respect it. And so I know we have that in common. Can you think of something else, Dr. Mariah, that we have?
Yes, Donna, we are both from Florida. Although I live in North Carolina now, I reign from West Palm Beach, Florida. So that's definitely one thing that we have in common.
Absolutely. That's great. And I want to just put on the plate here to celebrate that we are both state women to know winners or
Yes, we
awardees.
are.
So just this year, you became a Women to Know in North Carolina and
Yes,
are in that black book, I'm imagining, right? You also
yes.
are black book too. And I also had the privilege of being nominated and am a Woman to Know in Florida. So we,
Congratulations.
thank you. We have this overlapping concern for retaining women. And yet you're going to really help us understand this whole hormonal health scene
Yeah.
and how that is part of retaining women, and we can't ignore it. And I know just in terms of when I teach out on gender gap realities,
Mhm.
I mean, wellness is a thing. And yet I can't say that I have talked about hormonal differences, hormonal changes in women as being part of this wellness gap. So I'm really anxious to hear that. But first, I just want to say a little bit more about you, okay?
Okay,
And
go
I
ahead.
right off of you. So I want all of our watchers, our viewers, to know that Dr. Mariah Prince Allen, with a lot of initials, is the founder of Telehealth for Her. And I love how you capitalize her. I do that when I title things Retain Her. You
Uh-huh.
capitalize the her. Dr. Mariah is a Duke trained nurse practitioner, a TEDx speaker. So, viewers, you're going to want to jump on and find her TEDx talk, and a women's leadership retention strategist. She's the creator of the Silent Success Tax. Super interesting. I can't wait to hear about that. I do a lot of talk about the credibility tax. So, I want to learn
Yep.
about the Silent Success Tax and the Hormone Intelligent Leadership Framework. She helps companies prevent the costly misdiagnosis of hormonal transition as burnout. So, right off the bat, we're hearing that I, for example, might talk about
Yep.
burnout as part of the wellness gap. And you're going to tee up a little more for us about like, hey, don't just label it burnout if
Mhm.
something hormonal going on. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Because it messes with us, man. I can just imagine it messes with us. Through the Power Her Table, executive roundtables, and corporate consulting, she ensures executive women don't lose a decade of performance. Dr. Mariah, I'm thinking it can be longer than a decade, though. Your bio says a decade. We're going to learn from you. To a solvable organizational crisis. Wow. Well, thank you and welcome once again.
Thank you so much, Don, for having me. I'm excited for this conversation.
Exactly, exactly. Well, Dr. Mariah, I work with women leaders and then I work with senior executive teams. A lot of times those are led by men yet. And I
Mhm.
keep seeing the same pattern. I was just at an educational conference, heard the same story. Incredibly committed women
Mhm.
who are stepping back. I mean,
Yeah.
they just don't know what to do but to step back, or they say they're burning out. Maybe they haven't talked about hormonal health, or they're just plateauing and they don't see the advancement sort of channels of where they can go beyond that. So, what are you seeing? What is the state of women leaders today?
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest things that I am seeing, just like you just said, that women are kind of plateauing or stepping back in their careers. And we're blaming it on everything else except for what it really is. And I think now that we're starting to have some conversations about perimenopause and menopause, we have to actually think about how these drastic hormonal changes impact the workplace. So a lot of things that I am seeing in my practice and then also in the consulting world is the same story. It doesn't matter what this women look like; they all have the exact same story.
Mhm.
They start to feel fatigue. They start to have brain fog. Feel like they're not sleeping at night, and they're gaining weight. And everyone is telling them, oh, it's just stress, or you should just work out more, eat more healthier, manage your stress better, get some sleep. We're giving people the same generic advice. And or we're saying, oh, maybe it's depression or maybe it's anxiety. We're putting them on anti-anxiety medications or antidepressant medications. But no one is actually taking a deep dive to look at these women's hormones to see how that is actually impacting the things that they are feeling. Or sometimes when we do check, very basic labs, we're saying, oh, your labs look great. I don't know what's wrong with you. And we leave these women from a healthcare perspective still guessing what's going on. And then from a workplace environment, we're starting to see that, some of their performances are not as great as they're used to, their output is not as great,
Mhm.
or they're compensating in other ways by working, overtime at home, trying to, maintain that they're still having the same productivity in the workplace.
Wow, I heard a few things there just in what you started us off with. This whole sense of like, if something isn't diagnosed correctly, right, then it can go back to a woman thinking it's her again, right?
Mhm.
Like this whole sense of fix her. And we've learned so much more. And you and I both work in this world where no, we're building systems and structures, is what I would do. You're building this knowledge of health so she can stay, instead of her having to internalize that, well, evidently I can't cut it, so I'm going to have to back off because I can't cut it. And then the second thing that I thought of with your description there is, women are judged more harshly anyway, right? I mean, this whole sense of the credibility tax that
Yes.
I had mentioned earlier, right? Like we have to do things better and better and better and be watched doing it to succeed more closely. And so then if there is any just sort of implicit bias of whether she really can do the job or not, then if there are some of these reactions that her body is causing without sufficient help, then it becomes like almost one more evidence
Mhm.
from the leader that, see, she can't do this
She
job.
can't do the job or she shouldn't be in the workforce.
She shouldn't be in this role.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, tell us more. One thing, Dr. Mariah, can
Uh-huh.
I right off the bat just ask you to define perimenopause and menopause? I mean, I don't want
Yeah.
to assume that we all know, like, what does that mean? And I know there were quite a few men viewers that signed up for this live, and I'm thrilled about that. So
Me too.
teach
We
us
need them as allies.
what are those hormone words mean, first of all?
Yeah, so menopause, let's start with that one first. So it is when a woman has not had a menstrual period for 12 consecutive months and not due to surgery or, birth control pills or anything like that. And the average woman in the United States go through menopause around the age of 52.
Okay.
And then we think about perimenopause, it is that decade or so before menopause. So
Oh,
starting to hit women in their late 30s, early 40s, where they're starting to have some of the symptoms of the hot flashes and the insomnia because their hormones are, kind of bouncing around like like a basketball, but they're also starting to decline. And that's where women get all the irritability and things of that nature.
mm,
So when you think about this whole menopause transition, it starts typically for women in their early 40s. And think about the women that's in the workforce. That is
I'm
our prime age group.
just saying, right? That's right when we're hoping to rise, and there's all these others,
Exactly.
childbearing bias or other things that are going on. We are decreasing the pipeline every single spot, but then there's this whole extra sort of perfect storm that's coming in. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, I saw somewhere where you had like 20 some symptoms of perimenopause or menopause. You mentioned about, brain fog, fatigue. Anything more you want to tell us about just what women may be experiencing and how
Yeah.
it's misunderstood?
So there is a documented, I think, about 33 to 36 symptoms of perimenopause and menopause.
Okay.
It impacts every single aspect of your body. So even like hair thinning, dry eyes, skin changes, gut changes. And I
Mm,
think one of the biggest ones that we don't really think about is the brain health of women with these hormonal changes. And that there's a lot of data coming out now saying that they think that that's one of the reasons why women are twice more likely than men to have Alzheimer's disease.
oh,
There is a lot of changes that happen to women's, cardiovascular health. I see a lot of women who are saying, my blood pressure is starting to tick up. I never had blood pressure problems or cholesterol problems, because our hormones like estrogen is very cardioprotective. So in 2020, the American Heart Association deemed menopause as one of the greatest risk factors for women developing cardiovascular disease. We all
well,
know that that's the number one killer in women in the United States, right? So it is things like insomnia, fatigue. It is, the chest pains, the palpitations. I think about Oprah, who in her menopause journey, she said that she had heart palpitations and
okay.
she had to, see a cardiologist. She got a stress test. She saw like 5 different doctors before they realized that her heart palpitations was due to hormonal changes because she was in perimenopause.
Oh, wow.
So there's so many symptoms, and I just like to tell women it's not just hot flashes. It is so much more than that.
So much more than
Yeah.
that. So much more than that. And do all women experience a certain percentage of them? Or we as individuals, everybody's different or
Everybody is different. I think there are some women who, if I could pay them to only have the hot flashes, they'll probably would take the hot flashes over the other symptoms.
right.
And I like to tell women to have honest conversations about with your mom or your grandmother to know what their experiences was like because some of that stuff can be genetics. We
Oh,
do know that women of color are likely to have menopausal symptoms twice as long and twice as more severe
oh,
than their counterparts. Think a lot of that is due to just like environment and generational traumas and things of that nature.
mm.
But that is definitely documented that they're likely to have more severe hot flashes than their counterparts as well. So I think there is a lot of environmental conditions that impacts women's menopause journey, but also there's a lot of bit of familial genetics into it that as well. Yeah, but every woman typically is different.
It is
Yeah.
different. How did you get interested in this, Dr. Mariah?
Yeah, so it's very interesting. That's a question that I get asked a lot, especially because I'm not in the perimenopause, menopause age. But I always tell people that I knew that I wanted to do women's health. I didn't want to birth babies or, just do general gynecology. And when I learned about women's hormone health, it was very intriguing to me because I got to see the struggle of women that was going through menopause and perimenopause. And at the time there wasn't a lot of resources for those women, and I saw a lot of high professional women who were at the top of their careers kind of struggling, and I had to figure out a way to help them.
Mm,
And then also too, I decided that when I get there, when my generation gets there, the millennial women, we better be having a different story.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's unpack what that different
Yes.
story is going to be. But before we get there, is there anything more that you feel like you want to explain or set the table for, what we need to understand about how
Yeah.
this affects women in the workplace?
I think the biggest thing that we have to understand is what is really the difference between burnout and hormonal changes that are impacting women. So I call it hormonal bankruptcy.
Okay. Tell
And
us,
yeah,
what's hormonal bankruptcy?
so hormonal bankruptcy is really when all of the women's hormones have actually started to decline, and she literally do not have the strength to be able to carry on because she's lacking testosterone, progesterone, estrogen, the three top female sex hormones. And when that has happened, you can't, recover them naturally. Like we are living way longer than we
Um,
used to, right? So we outlive our hormones, there literally is no way to replenish them unless you go on like HRT.
And
So that is,
HRT, tell everybody what
yeah,
HRT is.
that is hormone replacement therapy. So in the form of, patches, pills, pellets, there's a plethora of different formulations, um, individualized to different females. But I think it is just that. So when I think about burnout, I think of, this person is just a little bit exhausted and they kind of just need a mental break from whatever it is that they're doing.
Okay.
Typically that can be fixed with, some mindset work, going on a vacation, and you come back and you feel refreshed, you can get your job done. But a
Mm,
lot of these women, they're doing the vacations, they're doing the mindset work, they're taking care of themselves to the best of their ability, and nothing is changing. Like they still feel bad. And so I'm
they
like, that's
still
the difference.
personally, like, they're thinking they're supposed to fix themselves. They add on these stress relieving activities.
Yes.
I would add one more thing, I would wanna get in there and see their work environment, like, are those expectations being, are the roles being clear and defined? Are more supports being given for her?
Yeah.
All those things that also add to the burnout, but then you're saying when burnout is the diagnosis from either her or her supervisor and it doesn't get fixed,
Hmm.
and perhaps she has the support and structure that I would help accompany.
Right.
You're saying somebody still needs to remember is, are you looking at your hormonal health? And
Are you
I
looking at
did
your hormonal
not
health?
realize that there's not a natural way to fix it. You're saying, like, we can totally be bankrupt.
Yep.
Our life expectancy means that we need this extra help, the HRT, which used
Exactly.
to be bad though, right? I mean, now it's come full circle.
Yes, we were
Now we
afraid. I think we scared an entire generation of women and healthcare providers and
yes,
society in
yeah,
the early 2000s, when the Women's Health Initiative study came out and said that
yeah.
HRT was bad for women. It gave them heart attacks and strokes and breast cancer. But when we really, and I think that's the important thing of actually learning how to read data and learning how to read research and then
Mhm.
actually investigating it a little bit deeper,
Okay.
because the amount of hormone replacement therapy that those women received was way higher than the doses that we give today. And it
Oh,
was for women who had already, like comorbidities, like, they already had heart problems or things of that nature.
okay.
And so we learned, and thanks to all of my colleagues who did a lot of work this past summer, speaking to the FDA and a panel, and got them to take off the black box warning that estrogen causes breast cancer, because it doesn't.
Oh, take
So,
it so it's literally off in
yes, the FDA
now?
approved and took that off this past summer.
That's huge, right?
That's
That's
huge,
huge.
yes.
Okay.
So it is definitely have come full circle, but I think there is still that fear. So a lot of times it just takes educating women and letting them see like just how small amount of a dose could really be so beneficial to them.
So it's not like what their mother or their grandma used to talk about, like, because the amounts are so different
Yes.
and, it's just gotten better for
So
the
much better.
the dosing of what we would give.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we gave women hormone replacement therapy before this study came out. Like, and
Mhm.
then this study came out, and we ripped it all apart and we said, okay, no, you can't have your HRT anymore. And then we just allowed women to suffer. And now I think, women still say, well, my mom went through it and she said it will just get better. You're just going through the change and just keep going. Eventually it'll get better. But you don't have to suffer through perimenopause and menopause. There is
One
lots of you can
one
do.
more thing that women are just supposed to just get through,
Yes,
right?
this
We
is
can
not
pull through it. We can
it.
do it. We're so
You're
tough.
not gonna get a trophy for struggling through your through your menopause
Mhm.
transition.
Oh my goodness, and yes, and to get help to be able to not think this is
Yeah,
all on you, that somehow you gotta step back, you can't handle the job, it must not have been for you, self-doubt that could creep in.
yeah,
Instead of that, to be able to get the help, get the right diagnosis so you can continue to be able to lead if that's the seat you've chosen and that you wanna
exactly.
continue. Wow. So I heard you say that, like, employers need to just understand that burnout with an employee needs to be investigated a little deeper, and
Yes.
especially looking for these ages, this, early 40s you said, or you said, 30 to 40s or 50s or something
Yeah,
between there, those decades. Okay,
yeah.
to be able to ask. Now, how does that work? I mean, how does I mean, don't we need to have I'm thinking of, so many white men yet in decision-making seats, right? Whether it's HR or a division leader or a CEO. I mean, how does this conversation just roll off somebody's tongue without sounding like they're, asking, "Oh, you must be on your period that you're so
You're
grown,"
right.
right? And then they get, like, totally chewed out. Like, how can a male leader approach this?
Yeah. I think it is having honest conversations in the workplace, right? So when
Yeah.
we think about workplace wellness, we all are, giving our employees, a gift card because they have a certain amount of steps on their Fitbit watches, right? So we're not thinking about wellness in the way that we should be. So I think for one of the things that they can do is having the resources available. I cannot tell you how many clients I see in my practice whose insurance doesn't cover basic hormone labs, right?
Oh.
So even if you don't want to have the conversation directly with your female employees, do your work environment offer the proper resources for these women to get comprehensive menopause care,
Okay, so just
right?
make sure it's offered and part of a benefit package. Don't make her come begging for it or even having to ask for it, right? I mean, like,
Exactly.
if it is part of the package, then it's just an assumed reality that we can dig into to see how it's affecting us.
Yeah, because I like to say all the time, like companies all have a maternal health benefit package. And we think about who that impacts. That impacts the women in their 20s, 30s, maybe even early 40s who are having children. A lot of companies are now even starting to have fertility benefits to help women who may be having some fertility issues or couples, right? But those are the people who have the least amount of experience in your company and the least amount of intellectual property.
Mm,
But for the women who have been in your company for 15, 20 plus years, who have risen up the corporate ladder, who is running your companies, who's helping your companies to make millions of dollars and
right?
making $1 million decisions, what medical support do you have for those women? Right? So
Mm,
why can we not ensure that women have a comprehensive menopause package? Right? And it's things like that. Or for companies that have like women ERGs, like let's have some honest conversations about what does menopause in the workplace look like and
wow,
how do we support these women through that? Because you don't have to go ask Sally, is she having a hot flash?
right,
Right?
right, right,
But you can have enough hormone intelligence to know that you
Ooh,
have the resources to help Sally still be productive in the workplace despite the fact that she's going through menopause. And I say that a lot because there are a lot of data and statistics that show that women menopause journey actually do impact their workplace. So there's like 1 in 2 women say that menopause actually impacts their job performance. Like 2 in 5 women say that menopause limits their career ambitions. And there
Mm,
was another study by the Mayo Clinic that showed that about 60% of women report some measurable cognitive changes during the menopause transition. So,
wow.
what are we doing to help these women not step back and not leave? Because also, 1 in 4 women who are going through menopause says, I'm leaving. And
Mm,
if you imagine the woman who's been in your company for 25 years or so, she doesn't just leave your company and go sit home. She leaves your company and go starts another company on her own that's
mm,
more beneficial
mm.
to her environment and how she wants to operate. And now she becomes your competitor,
Oh, do
right?
we not see this, Dr. Mariah, all the time? I
All the
think the
time.
circles you and I are both in are all about women entrepreneurship, and
Yep,
it is because she has a story of why she left there. And
exactly.
I think we each have our stories too, right?
Yes,
And so now we are here wanting to support women and also caring about different companies and organizations to say you don't have to lose her. You just
exactly.
you need to be willing to pause, engage the realities that are going on, and then build the support that will be able to keep her there.
Yeah,
Because just say a little bit more about why they don't want to lose her. I mean, I can hear in my mind perhaps some, men viewers, or maybe they're women viewers too, right? They're not always
yeah,
our champions, saying, well, see, this is just one more piece of evidence that she doesn't belong in that role. She can't take it. It's just
yeah.
she's got to go through that. I mean, what do you say about reminding these business owners, these team leaders, these CEOs that we are so much better off when she also is in that high decision making role?
Yeah, and I mentioned this in my TED Talk. So I talked about the societal impacts of menopause. And the United States alone, so this is just the US, we have not talked about any other country,
Mhm.
but the United States alone loses about $26 billion a year due to lost productivity from women going through the menopause transition. And
Mm.
that number is expected to quadruple when the women who are going through, who are the millennials, when they go through menopause, because we also have
And
yeah,
can you explain that a little bit more on what you understand that to mean? Like,
yeah,
how is this money being lost because the women are going through these hormonal changes?
yeah. So a lot of it is kind of 3 parts. So there's women just leaving altogether.
Mhm.
So there's that loss of economical income and productivity. There's also women who are not taking the positions they should be taking in companies.
Yeah.
And there's also women who they may still be present, but they're working at about 60% capacity.
Mhm.
So if you have your CEO of your company and she's a female and she is used to being your $1 million money making machine person, but all of a sudden she is having brain fog in a negotiation meeting. So I always like to tell companies how much of that $26 billion is your company contributing to that. And that's where the silent success tax calculator comes into play.
Okay.
It actually takes the symptoms that women are experiencing and calculating based on other data how much hours they're losing due to those symptoms. And then you ask them, how much money do you make an hour? How much money do you make per year? And
Right.
it calculates that to give them a number about how much money they're actually
Mm.
losing. And that's just one person, right? So then if you have, a big, huge company,
Right.
times that by all the women that's in your company, that's how much money is being lost on the table. So
Right.
that's why it's so important. And I think it's
Yeah.
it's not a
Agreed.
matter of a fact of like, can women, because they're going through menopause, they shouldn't be in the workplace.
Right.
It's
Right.
not
Right.
the mindset to have because we've learned that women are dominating the workplace, right? Like we
Ooh.
didn't just, come here and fight for, women's rights and just kind of sat idle. We got
Mm.
here, we showed up and we became the bosses.
Wow.
And, we think about the women who are going through menopause and that menopause transition, they're not only just the cream of the crop of the workplace, but they're also the cream of the crop of society. These are the women who are caring for the aging population. They're raising the future generations. They really
True.
are. They really are carrying society on their backs.
Right.
And I
Right.
think we do them a disservice by not offering just basic comprehensive care. You know what I mean?
I
And
love
support in
it,
the
Dr.
workplace.
Mariah. Are you a preacher too? Because I
No,
think you
I'm
could
just
preach.
very
Right? You
passionate
could
about
preach it,
this.
girl. That's awesome. Well, so Tell us more then about, other than, like having part of the benefit packages that you can have your hormonal health panels assessed. Maybe you get an appointment with Dr. Mariah, maybe there's some funding for that. You're like, is that a possibility?
Yeah.
Or what else can employers, can department heads, can executive teams, what else can they do? I would think they could educate themselves
Yeah,
for
for
one, but
sure.
I'm also thinking about, like, I mean, do we just have to talk about the air conditioner? Like, what? Oh, you bring a sweater, I'm dying over here, or tell us more. What can an employer do?
Yeah, so the Menopause Society actually has a menopause in the workplace toolkit.
Oh,
And I
wow.
think that's a really good place for companies to start,
Okay.
just to get some general basic information. But I think ultimately what they have to do is, if they want to be progressive and if they actually want to survive the progressive women who are coming into the workplace, aka the millennials and Gen, I think they're calling Gen Z now, the 20-year-olds,
Okay.
because they're coming, right?
Yeah.
But I think what we want to do, if we really want to stay in the game, we have to understand that the silent systemic loss of like women who are having cognitive decline, executive capacity, leadership presence, like that truly is the most expensive, unaddressed performance gap in organizations.
Oh, say that
And
again. Say that again. That is such
yes,
a good line. That expensive. Can you say that again?
yeah, so the silent systemic losses
Okay.
of women's cognitive capacity, their
Mm,
executive capacity, and their leadership presence is the most expensive, unaddressed performance gap
yeah.
in companies.
Yeah. Unaddressed performance gap. Okay.
So when you see that your top performing women are no longer performing to the way that they used to perform,
Okay.
don't just assume that they're burnt out,
Mm,
right?
mm,
It's okay to say, how are you sleeping? Are you getting enough rest at night?
okay.
And especially I think too, if you actually have genuine conversations and genuine relationship with women, I'm always amazed that the minute I say menopause, every woman starts to talk and she just relaxes,
I
even in a
tell you, it
workplace.
is like hot right now, right? No, no,
Yes,
I didn't mean that as a pun. But I mean, the topic is suddenly around more. And I'm so delighted that we're talking about it, right?
yes.
Me too.
Like it is no longer women being ashamed. Like I did a talk.
Ashamed. I mean, what
Yes,
is right? I mean, our bodies
we're
are
not
nothing to
ashamed
be
anymore.
ashamed of, right? Okay.
Yeah,
But it used to be it was just private. You sure didn't
exactly.
talk about it, right?
And
Okay.
it's not like that. But I think women sometimes always feel like they're the only ones going through it. And they start to
Mm,
feel like, oh, like maybe it's just me,
it's just me.
But the minute another female says, "Girl, is it me or are you just hot too?" They're like, no, I've been burning up, right?
Right,
And
right.
now you've built that sense of camaraderie. But I think in the workplace, it is truly just having honest conversations. You
Honest.
don't have to have those honest conversations one on one, but it can be like, hey guys, like let's just talk about like the same way we talk about cardiovascular health and
Yeah.
breast cancer in workplaces. And, there's a lot of companies that do breast cancer walks. October is also Menopause Awareness Month, right? So,
Oh,
what are we doing in the workplace to support that? So, it's just having different initiatives and thinking a little bit outside of
okay.
the box. But where my consulting work comes in is helping companies to ensure that they have what I like to call a hormone intelligent workplace environment. So, what are your policies and procedures looking like? Like, do you support these women on a day where they may have not have had a lot of rest to be able to maybe work from home? Like, how are we actually like ensuring that we are really supporting these women, not just by
Mhm.
saying it, because to say
Right.
something is great, or not to just have a one and done webinar and that's all that we do, but
Exactly.
how are we really actually putting feet to the fire to ensure that women are really supported in the workplace so that they don't leave and become your competitor?
Right, then
Yeah.
become your competitor. He is leaving with all that knowledge.
All that
He is
knowledge.
leaving with all that experience, that's right.
Yep.
So you don't wanna lose her. So policies, procedure, the honest conversations, I love that, the honest conversations, the ability to be able to to have now, is this menopause toolkit? Is this from you, Dr. Mariah, or
The menopause toolkit on the Menopause Society is not from me directly. It is one that the Menopause Society created.
okay, so
Yeah.
there's I am showing my ignorance here that there
No.
is a menopause society. Of course
Yeah,
there
there's
is,
a
there
Menopause
should be, right?
Society.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else that comes to mind that we should know as business owners, as team leaders, beyond what you've just mentioned that would be helpful to
Yeah.
support this in the workplace?
I think one of the things that I like to do for my female entrepreneurs, and also the female leaders of companies, we always do audits of like, how is the company doing financially? Are we meeting our goals? But there's a tool that I created called the CEO Health Review.
Ooh,
And it is a kind of like a self check in, like not really a survey, but more so just like an audit. And what it does is it audits the health of the top women or the female entrepreneur. Because when I'm speaking to female entrepreneurs and I let them know that their health is actually their greatest asset in their company, because if the CEO can't function and can't think, then how is the rest of the company supposed to survive? And I
right.
ask companies a lot too, and even female entrepreneurs, is to do this audit just as often as you audit the business finances, the business budget, the business goals. Because if you can understand, and I think that's also where health, like where the workplace can also be supportive, right? So if you don't feel as though you're comfortable enough to have this conversation with, Jenny, who is your, executive, is there a toolkit or something that you can maybe give her to do as a self audit during her evaluation that she
Oh,
herself can figure out, like, am I sleeping at night? Like, how is my health doing? Right? Because the toolkit then, based on how she scores, gives her the next steps of what she should do.
okay.
And then she now has the ability to say, okay, well, I now maybe I need to see someone about my hormonal health, get my labs checked, or something of that nature. But she now is empowered because she now has done a review of her own health.
Of her, just even the permission to stop and know this is a question to ask yourself,
Exactly.
and to make that more common and more natural, that it's
Yeah,
something that instead of just gym memberships or that
exactly.
able to have some of these resources at the ready, so the whole conversation becomes more normal, and
Hmm.
so the knowledge of what it would mean to lose her, and we don't have to necessarily lose her if we can flex a little bit, if we can have a few more of these benefits and resources, so she
Yeah.
doesn't think it's just in her head, so she doesn't automatically pull back and think, I guess I'm not made out for this job. And then in the meanwhile, what responsibility do we have for our male colleagues to learn about this? Is
I
that
think it's really important for men to learn about it because it's not just, and I think one of the things I really want people, especially men, to understand is that before we heard menopause, we used to think it was the older women, the women who were retired. But as I said earlier in this talk, it's women are a lot younger going through menopause than we think.
Mhm,
But I think too, if they learn how to be allies for women in the workplace, then
mhm.
they can also have the tools and the resources to support their partners at home who may also be going through this, right? And being able to say, like, I noticed this. And in my TED talk, I called them, the menopause survivors. As one of, I heard a man say that one time, like, I survived menopause with my wife.
There's some
So,
stories, huh?
yeah, there are some stories there. But I think when men are educated, they can also help to advocate for women, right? So
Right,
even if it's, in the workplace, we can have that advocacy to say, hey, I'm noticing this in a couple of my female employees, what go to HR, like what resource do we have for them, right?
right,
Or
right.
even just even in the, home environment when your significant other has gone to the doctor and she felt
Mm,
like that she was being dismissed, if you yourself is educated on this topic and know what's going on, then you can also help advocate for her in that doctor's appointment.
right, because what did you call it? Hormone intelligence, right?
Yes, you got to have
Well,
hormone.
I totally can respect for our male viewers that, that it could feel dicey to know, like, how to bring something up. But I hear us saying, like, use questions, invite resources, invite honest conversations.
Yeah.
Don't make her pay for being honest, because that would be something I would work with, right? In
Yeah.
culture for women to succeed is, she doesn't want to, if she's going to suffer a cost, right? If there's some sort of consequence for her calling out a microaggression, or for her asking about her advancement channel opportunities, or working towards some pay transparency as she builds, all different structures I would work with to try to help build that culture where she can thrive and stay.
Yeah.
If she has some sort of, consequence or repercussion for leaning in, then she's definitely going to have one foot out the door.
Exactly.
Just the sense of relationships. I think I heard you say that before. I'm all about that. I mean, building relationships. We call them level 2 relationships in some of the work I do, where there's that back and forth, that lean in deep curiosity of what another person thinks and is experiencing, and with the open, transparent heart to realize I don't know everything and I can learn.
Yep. We should be learning something every day.
Right?
Yeah.
You mentioned ERGs, employee resource groups. I know some companies are no longer supporting those in today's environment. And, we need them desperately. We need places where women can talk freely, but we need environments where, gender identification all over the map just has trusting relationships, that psychological safety where we can show up ourselves, be able to say what we need, and then figure out how together to support each other so we can thrive.
And I think too, beyond just gender, like, we're all humans. So let's figure out how, as humans, that we can
Amen to
support
that.
each other, whether they're a female human, a male human.
Right.
We're all humans. So let's figure out a way that we can support each other.
Exactly, right? The Artemis, the astronauts there look back on this blue ball and it's like, come on, everybody, there's got to be a way we can get along, right? There's got to be a way we can support each other. Well,
Exactly.
Dr. Mariah, tell us more about like the telehealth that you offer, or how persons can, get in touch with you. I know we have a QR code coming up we can share, but what more would you want our viewers to understand about your help and how it looks on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so I have as I said before, I'm a nurse practitioner by trade. So I do have a virtual women's wellness practice called Telehealth for Her.
Love
You can find me or get a consult with me at telehealthforher.com. I make it very simple. And for those companies that are looking to have some honest conversations, you can also go to mariahprinceallen.com. Very simple. And there's a work with me tab there, and you can book a consultation with me there so that we can figure out how do we bring these conversations and these resources into your work environment.
Exactly. Dr. Mariah, I think we're going to have to do some partnering together.
Yes, I would love that.
Bring us in together. I'll work on that structural support of all these different drivers and pieces to make sure are in place for women to thrive. And then instead of just talking about burnout, Dr. Mariah will help you with this wellness gap and this sense of making sure there's an environment and there's benefits for, especially, I love what you said. I mean, these are women right in the prime of their leadership. So not only are they taking care of elders, not only are they taking care of children if they're in the home, but they have this health sort of challenge that we can help with, that you can help with, and point them to what they need. I love that there's help available and that they don't need to go through it alone. And so you'll see the QR codes there above Dr. Mariah's website and also my website at Dawn, for Dawn Y. Graber Consulting. And we both work at retaining women leaders. Dr. Mariah, I want you to be able to just think of, final sort of words that you want to tell us as an encouragement, your frequently asked questions that people ask you, something else you'd want to tell us. So you think for a moment, and I'm going to also just ask our viewers if they have a chance. This is a know before they go assessment. And I think I'm going to have to add something about health in here. Dr. Mariah's inspiration. But I use 4 different questions, research based on just how women start to act, women in this sweet spot of executive leadership, how she tends to show up when she's got one foot out the door, and that usually our male senior leader colleagues just don't quite get it. They don't know that she's about to leave, and they can stop it if we work together. And if we add what Dr. Mariah was saying in terms of understanding that if burnout is the main thing on the table, is it burnout perhaps due to hormonal health, not just the way the workplace might be failing her in other sort of ways, structurally and such. So that's just a know before they go assessment if you'd want to take that. But let's just bounce back here and see what Dr. Mariah would like to leave us with today. We want you to have some final advice for us for being able to be hormone intelligent, both as women and men in the workplace and in our homes.
Yeah, so I would say that the most powerful shift in women's economic leadership will come the day that we stop asking women to perform around their biology and start building businesses that are intelligent enough to work with them.
Dr. Mariah, I tell you, you've just got these one-liners that are mic drops. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I'm going to listen to that again. I won't make you say it again, but I'm going
that's
to
okay.
listen to it again. So instead of working around like, okay, I just got to deal with, these symptoms today,
Yeah,
instead,
learn to work with them.
wow, my workplace respects and wants me so badly in my seat of influence that they're going to work with me to know how I can still show up powerful and effective today in spite of what's going on. Yeah.
Exactly.
And that whole connection to the estrogen and the cardio protection you mentioned earlier, in the sense
Yes.
that needs to be like spoken of much more, right? I mean, like,
Yeah.
if heart disease is such a killer for women, then
Mhm.
obviously that should be a conversation instead of just more meds, more meds.
Exactly. And that's one of the things I mentioned in my
Mhm.
TED talk. I said, I love how a lot of companies, a lot of organizations, we all go red in February for Women's Heart Month.
Yes,
But if we took the time to really address the root cause for why women have so much heart disease, we
right.
probably would not be wearing red in February anymore.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. Well, Dr. Mariah Prince Allen, thank you so much for your
Thank you,
wisdom.
Dawn. This was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, look, we are doing similar work, and you're just pushing out an important part that will make my work even stronger. And so I'm so glad to know you. I
Me
think,
too. This is what happens when two nurses get together.
yes, yes, Tish Time introduced us. She's a woman worth knowing too, if you want any
Yes.
connections on all things sales. But Mariah and I met through Tish, and yeah, very glad to have had you. Those of you viewing this, we'd love to get any feedback. Hit us both up here with contacts or connections. And thank you so much, Dr. Mariah.
Thank you, Don, for having me, and thanks to everyone who joined in and who will be watching this at another time. This is great.
Thank you so much. This is Dawn Graber thanking you from Dawn, supporting women leaders, and let's together build workplace cultures where women stay and have hormonal intelligence and care and benefits.
Yes.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.